Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Just Another Kill Team podcast, connecting kill team communities across the globe. If you're passionate about the tactical skirmish game that brings together strategy, lore, and creativity, you are in the right place. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and stay updated with our latest episodes. If you want to support the show, check out our Patreon. Your support means a lot to us. Follow us by using the social media links in the podcast description for all the latest news, and be sure to leave a review to let us know what you think. Thanks for tuning in. Here's today's episode.
What's up, guys? We're here to talk about our New Year's resolutions. You know, Just Another Kill Team podcast is turning 3.
Yeah, this is our 3rd year. So we've completed 2 years, and we're starting the 3rd year now.
And we really just wanted to catch up on how our last year was compared to our last year's resolution. You know, I don't know if anyone was here since we have a lot of new listeners compared to last year. But last year we talked a little bit about how we were going to switch over to talking about a little bit more competitive kill team content while trying to touch base with communities around the globe. And I think we did that pretty well. You know, we're
Definitely
all the way up to 89 countries. So the communities have been spread out quite a bit more.
Last year we were talking about trying to make the top 10% of podcasts. We've definitely done that, and last year we were tickling it while we were in the top 25%. This year, or 2024, we were tickling the top 5%, but ultimately kind of landed in the top 10%. So we'll see if in 2025 we can soundly, consistently hit that top 5%, and I do definitely want to thank all of you, the listeners, for making that possible.
And our Patreon subscribers. You know, last year we set up our Patreon. We've been going up a little bit over time. So thank you very much, everyone who listens, weekly on Spotify, who gives us reviews, people who catch us on YouTube, and anywhere else that you download your podcast. We're super appreciative of all of the support because we love Kill Team and we like getting people a broad spectrum of voices from around the globe because Kill Team is a worldwide hobby.
It is, yeah. I was a little bit amused to see the statistic that we put out 58 episodes last year, because that is more than one per week, and it's 6 bonus episodes is more than I thought we did. So 58 episodes, pretty solid.
Yeah, the 6 bonus episodes generally were around data slates or big news items. We did a couple more fun formats specifically for our Discord this year. So when some of the new content dropped, we spun up a couple chat rooms and then recorded the voice chats with some of our listeners. So, maybe this coming year we'll do the same thing whenever some big data drops in just for some hot takes, because who has more fun than hot takes on Just Another Kill Team?
And I mean, that was a really fun episode, and that was actually one of the top episodes from the whole year, was the community reactions and excitement around the 3rd edition rules drop, which obviously, there's a lot of hype around the drop of 3rd edition, but it was, just everyone that hopped in on that was really fun. We had great energy, and it was a fun recording.
Yeah, and I'm happy that we've been doing a little bit more competitive content, but I have noticed as we've gone throughout the year, I know in our first year, I tried to make sure that when we were getting really deep into a concept, we try to ground out our concepts to make sure that newer listeners were not left in the dust. But I feel like now with the new edition of Kill Team, in the rearview mirror a little bit, but obviously we're still percolating. We're all still playing. We've got big tournaments coming up for this year. We probably want to do a better job for the newer players who are trying to find their Kill Team content, making sure that you guys are not left out in the dark. And hopefully for all of the more experienced players, some of those things are good reminders for everybody. Because one of the most important things that I find while doing tournament organizing is I forget things all the time too. So being able to know exactly what it is, hear it, think about it, and know when to actually pull it up, that's a big part of playing the game competitively.
Yeah. And also on the note of feedback from listeners, we do really enjoy all the feedback that you guys give us, and we're hoping that you continue to give us feedback. And if you've kind of been lurking for a while, reach out and say hi. We absolutely want to hear from you. There's comments. We've got the Discord. Whatever you want to do, reach out.
Yeah, it's been very encouraging. I've gone out to a couple events, at some of the larger scenes. And a couple random people have come up and said, they really like the podcast. For all of those people who have bumped into us in real life and have said anything, it's very much appreciated. It's super cool to, be part of the community and make sure that everybody learns a little bit more. On that end of trying to reconnect with our listener base a little bit, we've got our first survey trying to get a sense for what you guys are looking for. We're going to attach that to the show notes here. And if you could please give us a little bit of a surveys response, just so that we kind of know, a little bit more about you guys so we can adjust content. Maybe if we are looking for sponsors in the near future, we can try to figure out find content that's good for you guys rather than just picking whoever we can find. Because if we know if you're a hobbyist or more competitive or, more on the tournament organizing side or just want to hang out with your friends, it'll help us inform conversations in the future. And that would be really cool.
That would be very cool.
I was just going to talk about, our overall number of podcast downloads, but I think that was something that you were pretty excited about because last year you mentioned that we were at, I think at like 16,000 during our resolution episode last year, and we knocked it out of the park. We didn't just do double, we quintupled.
Yeah, so we're almost 75,000 downloads total across the entire history of the podcast so far, which it feels very solid. It seems like we are decently on track maybe to hit 150,000 this year. We'll see. We can only do that if with you guys' help. If you love what we're doing, give us feedback. We adjust to it to really give you what you want, and everybody tells your friends.
And to that end, make sure to drop a review on any of your listening, services. Spotify is probably the big one right now. We've got 48 reviews compared to Kill Team Casual's 140 or so. So maybe we can catch up to them, guys. Hint, hint.
Yeah, if you are listening on your phone on Spotify right now, just pull it up and just drop us a little review.
And this year, we tried to do a little bit more YouTube content. We didn't quite get to the high highs of having a fully animated video like, Can You Roll a Crit does or Command Point with their massive number of guests. We have tried to focus a little bit more in on like an Auspex Tactics style video, but with a little bit of movement so we can show off the teams that we painted. If that's kind of stuff has been good for you, let us know. Our YouTube is, just under 1,000 subscribers right now. Hopefully this year we can do a little bit better. And those are the big things for me. I'm really glad that everything has been going as well as it has. I've had a lot of fun doing the podcast. And, Jason, I think we're kind of in the same boat there, right?
Oh yeah, this podcast has been super fun. I've met a lot of friends, heard a lot of very interesting insights, and it's been a blast.
Yeah, and even more funny, during our resolution episode last year, we talked about how we're going to find out the pecking order of who's the more competitive player, and it turns out after the 2024 season, it was Jason.
I was very surprised. Who knows if I'll maintain it? Because ultimately, I am a pretty casual player. I do love my elites, and they're not going to be good for forever.
True. The headwinds of the new season definitely did help the Marines a little bit. Phobos have been very good, but you did, hit the high highs of the best player at Worlds for Phobos.
And even when elites were down in the dumps in last year, I was also going to play Intercession at LVO and was expecting to get stomped and did pretty well. Went undefeated the first 2 days. So, it's a pretty high bar to repeat, so I'm not necessarily expecting to do that again, but I'm hoping I can do reasonably well, get at least a 50% win rate, and have some good fun games with my fresh batch of Angels of Death.
And you're going back to LVO, you've got the habit of telling your opponents every piece of your strategy before you get into a game and still crushing them with it. I don't know, Angels of Death, they've got only a couple chapter tactics, and they haven't been doing all that well on the weekly stats. One of the things that we do for our Patreon listeners and for the late YouTube subscribers. So do you have a secret sauce, or are you just planning to go balls to the wall ham and put your stats in your opponent's face?
Yeah, definitely going for the put stats in the opponent's face. Duelist and mobile is kind of what I'm looking at. I still have to decide which one would be the primary. That was kind of how I was running Intercession at the end of the last edition, but I was doing all rifles and mobile and duelist, and then you just run down the field and just go full auto on everyone. Switching it up a little bit, where I think I'm going to do all chain swords. I don't think I'm going to even bring a gunner most of the time. I'm going to paint one up But like right now, like literally on my hobby desk is a chaplain and a box of sword brethren, and it's just all melee combat, sprint down the field, shoot everybody up with bolt pistols, and the only buffs you need for it is going to be the tactical doctrine, and then just like cut people up with chainswords. Chainswords being the higher priority. No one can tie you up and be a nightmare in melee, and just go blitz down the field and go crazy. So they're not as fast as Phobos, which has me a little bit worried, but they are a little bit more durable, and if they can get through fights taking less chip damage, that's also pretty huge.
Last year, your melee and forward-focused intercessors did very well, so I'm excited to hear what goes on at LVO in the near future. So for any listeners who see Jason, hopefully you don't get brutalized too hard by the wall of Ceramite incoming.
That's true. Or maybe I'll just be the easiest game that you have there, because Angels of Death are not amazing. What about you, Travis? You've got the Rekkas that you've been playing. Are you planning to stick with them? Do you feel like they are a nice team to call home for now, or you're keeping an eye out on future releases?
Until we get the next teaser, I think I'm probably going to stay on Rekkas for a little bit. They've got an interesting play style, and their shooting is very reminiscent of old school Pathfinder shooting, where you just roll the dice and you tell your opponent to pull their model. Because once you let go of the dice, if you have enough Rekka points, you just put down 6 hits that deal 4 or 5 damage each, and you tell your opponent, like, whatever your stat sheet is, you just pull the model. So that element of the shooting game does feel pretty nice, I won't lie. And when it comes to something like the Rocketeer, who's got 6 attacks on 5s with Relentless and Blast 2 that you can juice to Blast 3, to catch people off guard. And, people are worried about the melee threats, but with 3 separate big blast threats, you can really kind of force your opponent into weird positions. They got to contort themselves to worry about the second hole. I have basically decided that the second gunner is probably not worth it. I've got an extra commando boy body that I slapped the crab shell onto and gave a hammer to, so I've got an extra breaker boy. And the ability to chuck a hole inside a piece of terrain or on top of a vantage, and then suddenly you go, through a floor that your opponent's not really expecting, is pretty fun tech. You can do some stuff that your opponent isn't really expecting. And your tack up game is not the worst. You take ground on some of the missions where you got to fight over a box, and suddenly your opponent is now not able to get onto a point safely because you have holes and you are hiding behind the holes pretty safely, and your opponent just can't get to you within 2 inches and see you, and then you run through and blow up, or you jump over a wall and do some other crazy stuff.
And if the commandos do in violence in there, that third APL rolls over until their next activation. I'm pretty sure. So like if they shoot you, wouldn't it?
If I remember correctly, it does not. It goes until the beginning of their next turn, but you don't get it at the beginning of your next turn.
Yes. So just for like contesting the point, if you charge and fight someone, you count as 3 APL for holding the point.
Yes, that part is true. So they do have enough fun stuff going on. I've had a reasonable amount of fun with them. I haven't played anyone hyper competitively with them, so I don't know how they'll fare at the upper ends of the meta. I will say, though, that the Demolisher Hammer, the tank hammer, is very fun to use and is a really, really good countercharge piece, because you just walk him up into the middle objective, and your opponent either runs up and shoots him and probably doesn't kill him because he's got 13 or 12 wounds, or they run up and fight him and suicide a model that they don't want to suicide. Which are, most of those are fine situations with me. And I really enjoy the threat of, 2d6 plus 6 damage. It's nice.
It is pretty wild.
And also, I just realized this weekend there's a fun little trick on in the dark, which is related to, hitting someone with a door fight. So since a door fight is 2 inches away from you, but you count as in control range, you'll blow yourself up and your opponent, but then everybody within 1 inch of your opponent's model is also going to get hit.
Okay, so just door fight explode people, so your explosion will hit someone that is like alarmingly far away.
Yes. I think that's how that will work. Looking at it, you are in control range for the purpose of that fight. I don't think it moves the physical position of your model. It just overrides what control range counts as. So if your opponent is staging over the wall incorrectly and you run out Demolisher and you hit them, you can swing around a wall and blow up a bunch of people that your people are staging. So there are a couple fun cheesy, silly things that you could probably get away with Breaka Boys that your opponent probably isn't really expecting, which could be pretty sick. The Breaka Boy Demolisher, like there's a bunch of fun tricks you can do. Whether or not they're good tricks at a high level, I don't know, but the team is fun enough. I only got to bring around 8 models. It's one small Pokemon tin. I've got a paint job I'm pretty happy with. It was maybe 10 hours total. The mix of decals plus a very messy paint job and pigments means that they all came together pretty cohesively. They look like a single team, and it looks like I put a lot of work into them, even though I put a medium amount of work. Decals do a lot of work, especially when you muddy up the decals so they look like they're lived in the orcs.
That's true. Yeah, I've been actually slowing down my painting. For the first time ever, I've been hitting a bunch of I spent a whole hour or more per model. So with my yellow Templars that I'm bringing to LVO, they have it's probably about an hour and a half each that I've put into them so far. And I'm still planning to do a little bit more because I'm planning to do decals as well. And I don't know, it looks pretty good. I've seen so many people that their models look way better, but it's definitely an improvement.
Just got to be proud of your own models. At the end of the day, you're only competing against the past version of yourself in anything.
Exactly. Okay, here's a zany question that we didn't prep for at all. So, if you need a moment to think about it, I can go first. The question is, if a specific sort of team came out, what would be your most excited team that could maybe happen this year or next year? I have two teams that I would be really excited about.
I suspect that my dream team is probably nowhere in the docket, mostly because I already got the Vespid and they are already the Tau representation I suspect for this rotation. I would have loved to get an update on the Fire Warrior Breacher squads, because I think having close range Tau that are meant to, do the marker light thing while also playing close in fire support would have been very cool, but I suspect that's very far from the edge. I've got my Kroot models, I've got my Vespid models, I got my Pathfinders. As a Tau player, there's not really much room for me to complain, so I'd probably have to go look into some other model ranges. I've been flirting with the Eldar, and I do like the Eldar range. So getting another version of Blades of Cain, but with the other 3 aspects, would be kind of hot. Dark Reapers, Fire Dragoons, and Swooping Hawks would be hilarious.
I was thinking you were probably going to say Warp Spiders.
Oh, and Warp Spider. So having a separate version of Blades of Cain, but with the other 3 aspects. So I don't know what they're Blades of Kegrak, probably not. It'd be Blades of Aspirin. I don't know, something like that. That would be kind of cool, because I do really like the Blades of Cain kind of mix aspects, mono aspect design. So getting another version of that, but with the new sculpts, would be kind of cool.
That'd be very cool.
What about you, Jason? What would you be excited for? What's your biggest dream item?
There's 2 teams that I would be especially excited about. I'm going to start with the one that I'm slightly less excited about, but would still be really cool, and it is Grey Knights. Because the existing Grey Knight box is sick. You've got your heavy weapons, you've got your teleporty dudes, you've got your regular warriors, and their compendium rules from the first launch were pretty cool and very interesting. And honestly, with everything that GW's learned from the game, I think a bespoke version of Grey Knights would be insanely cool, and just fun and potent and interesting. Especially if they could take advantage of those teleport guys, that'd be so cool. And there's a lot of people saying Tyranids. That's cool. Everyone else can say Tyranids. I think that'll be fun. But Grey Knights would be very exciting. The other one would be just a straight up, we just got Plague Marines, but do the Khorne equivalent. Give me Khorne Berserkers, the kill team. That would be my absolute favorite of something that could possibly happen this year. Yeah, that'd be super cool. Especially if they threw in some zany stuff like a character, like a butcher or something. But what is there? There's the Master of Executioners is one of the existing 40k models. If it was that or something similar, where you sort of have a Khorne Doom guy. I don't know. I'm just making
I think
stuff
having
up.
more hero-focused lists going this year would actually be a big positive for me. Not that we need full elites, but Wormblade kind of get away with it because they got a couple more character models, but none of the other factions really get their big character focuses outside of Angels of Death, who got their captain. So maybe getting one or 2 more character-centric releases that are not quite characters, but Void Dancers, they get their characters. It would be nice to get a little bit more of that flavor, like the Grey Knights. If there was a new kind of Grey Knight squad that was a Terminator with purifiers or something. One guy to go stand there and bring in the firepower. I guess the Ratlings are kind of doing that as well with Ogren. So showing off different parts of the 40K lore that maybe could use expansion or haven't had any expansion, and giving some legs to the lore there, because Kill Team does a really good job of kind of selling you on the vibe of whatever that team is. So I would like to see more of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Also, I'm a little surprised that we haven't seen any like official Terminators in Kill Team. I mean, I guess they kind of outclass the rest of the game, but it would be super cool to have like a Terminator in the rest of the team. Grey Knights would be a good fit for that.
Yeah, there's 5 on the kill up. I assume it's going to be 2 custodians and 3 sisters, or 1 custodian, 4 sisters. We'll see.
That'd be pretty sick too, honestly.
Anyways, I think that makes for a good wrap up for the 2024, kind of retrospective, looking forward to next year. We'll do our best to try to make sure that all our listeners are kept engaged, both on the new end and the experienced end, while revisiting some of our past communities. And we'd really like to get to know you guys a little bit better. So please do fill out that survey. We would very much appreciate it. And we'll even try to make sure that whoever does gets entered in a lottery for maybe some prize support.
Pretty cool. Sweet. Well,
any other last words for you, Jason?
I think that pretty much does it for me. Thanks for chatting, Travis, as always. And thank you, listeners, for listening until the end.